It was a quiet Sunday afternoon in Maplewood, a small town in rural Ohio. The local diner, famous for its homemade pies and friendly atmosphere, was full of weekend visitors. Outside on a wooden bench near the entrance sat Martha Collins, a 78-year-old deaf woman who had been a loyal patron for nearly 2 decades. With her worn-out handbag on her lap, she patiently waited for her ride after enjoying her usual cup of black coffee and apple pie. A group of teenage boys on bicycles rode past and noticed her sitting alone. Instead of kindness, they chose cruelty. They pulled out their phones, started recording videos, and mocked her deafness, imitating her gestures and laughing loudly. Martha looked confused, unable to hear their insults but sensing the hostility. Tears slowly filled her eyes as she clutched her hands together. The teenagers continued filming, posting it on social media with a cruel caption. Inside the diner, a few customers noticed the scene unfolding. Among them was a broad-shouldered man in a leather jacket covered in biker patches. His name was Mark Grizzly Dawson, and as soon as he recognized Martha and understood what was happening, a silent fury stirred deep within him. The cruel video began spreading on social media within minutes, sparking a wave of shock and anger among locals. Meanwhile, inside the diner, Grizzly watched the boys with a cold, steady gaze. He stood up without saying a word and motioned to his fellow bikers, men and women who had formed a close-knit group known as the Steel Guardians. They weren't delinquents, most were veterans, mechanics, and family people with a code of honor. As they exited the diner together, their heavy boots echoed with purpose. Outside, the teens were still laughing when they noticed the bikers approaching. Their smirks faded. Grizzly knelt beside Martha and gently tapped her shoulder. She looked up with puffy eyes, recognizing his face, and a flicker of relief crossed her features. He began signing to her, asking if she was okay. His daughter had taught him sign language years ago, and now it was a blessing. Martha managed a weak smile. Then Grizzly stood up and faced the boys. Though he spoke calmly, his words cut sharper than any shout. "You think picking on someone who can't hear you makes you strong?" he asked. The boys didn't reply. The crowd that had gathered stayed silent. Justice wasn't loud, but it was close. The video didn't stay hidden for long. Within hours, it was being shared across local Facebook groups, igniting outrage and heartbreak. Parents recognized the teenagers involved, and calls for accountability grew louder. But Grizzly and the Steel Guardians had something else in mind, justice with purpose. They contacted the diner owner and proposed an event, a community gathering called Voices Together, aimed at spreading awareness about bullying and supporting members of the deaf and disabled community. Word spread fast, and soon, posters were hung all over town. The event took place the following weekend, right where the incident happened, outside the diner. The whole town showed up. Families, bikers, teachers, and even the sheriff came to stand in solidarity. Martha, dressed in her Sunday best, was the guest of honor. The teenagers, pushed by their parents and conscience, also attended. They stood nervously at the front and apologized publicly, their voices shaky but sincere. Grizzly translated Martha's response in sign language. She forgave them but reminded everyone that kindness should be a daily choice, not an afterthought. The crowd applauded. Music played, engines roared, and barbecue smoke filled the air. The hateful video had been replaced by a new one filled with unity and love. The impact of the Voices Together event rippled far beyond that day. Inspired by the turnout and Martha's grace, the Steel Guardians decided to launch a yearly charity ride called the Martha Collins Peace Ride. It was not just about honoring her, but also raising funds for deaf education and anti-bullying programs. Each year, more bikers joined, from neighboring states even, roaring into town to show that unity is louder than hate. Martha's life was transformed too. She went from being a quiet diner regular to a beloved local figure who embodied resilience and forgiveness. Students wrote her cards, teachers invited her to speak through interpreters, and she never missed an event. She'd always sign back with a smile, her eyes shining with gratitude. Even the bullies changed. 2 of the boys began volunteering at a community center for hearing-impaired children. Martha welcomed their efforts with open arms and never once turned them away. One day, the diner owner unveiled a mural, a vibrant painting of Martha on her bench, surrounded by bikers and smiling families. She stood there quietly, her hand resting on her heart. She couldn't hear the cheers around her, but she felt every bit of the love that her town had given back.